So my grandfather was my father figure, my dominoes player, my confidant, the peacemaker of the family. And when he passed away with dementia, everything changed. My life changed, the family dynamics changed, and home didn't really feel like a home anymore. He got married to my gran in their early 20s. They went to England, they built a life there, and then they came back to Dominica. And I think truly being around my grandparents really shaped the way that I live, the people I value, the things that I value. So when he passed away and we went on that journey with him till his death, I realized that there is more to life than what I imagined. And that is why I kind of started the Dominica Dementia Foundation, to be that sense of hope and that sense of resource for people going through that same experience. So next slide, please. So a bit about me that was already said in the bio, but just for more context, I am a founder, I'm a film director. I also was awarded by the Queen, so that's myself and Her Majesty, the late Queen Elizabeth. I received this award in response to the work that I do in dementia along with the team. I also have a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in dementia. So with every accolade, there is a story, there is a challenge, and there's also triumphs. And I know that's probably the same for you. And today I really want us to unpack that. So we will go through with the next slide, and we'll talk about the why. So why? Why do we do what we do? What is our motivations? Is it our family? How is what we're doing impacting our community? How is it enhancing our household? I think it's really important that we understand our why, so then we can know why we're doing it, what is our motivations, and how we move forward. So that being said, it is important that we are intentional with our goals in 2025. I want us to value our time, and let's not be busy for busy's sake, because you know you can't be busy for busy's sake. So I want you to turn to your neighbor and say, I hope they're not talking about you. And I want you then to respond, it's definitely not me they're talking about. Okay, great. Now, we can go on to the how. The how. So how will you organize your time this year? How will you turn that vision into reality? So for me, I like to organize my time by year. So I will have my yearly goals, and then I will have my month and my day-to-day. So there's small tasks that adds up to that bigger goal. And one way I've done this is on the next slide, which is eat the frog, aka eat the quapo. But of course, there's no quapos involved in this approach. But you know, just for more context, eat the frog was a concept adapted by or introduced by Dr. Brian Tracy, who is almost like one of the godfathers of beating procrastination. So eating the frog generally means that the hardest task on your to-do list is the frog. And what you should do is do that task in the beginning of your day, and that is when you get, you know, rid of that task, and then you can move on to the other task. So another example or concept that I want to bring to your mind is maybe we all have that one thing on our dish where we're like, do I really want to eat that? And that might be broccoli. For me, it's broccoli, so I'm going to use broccoli. I don't like broccoli. But if it's on your plate, right, and then you remember, oh yes, my granny used to say, you need to eat your broccoli, you'll be strong, you did that. So then you decide, okay, you know what? There's broccoli, but there's plantain. You like plantain, right? I like plantain. There's plantain there, there's chicken there. You have a mac and cheese, and then the gravy is all around. So I don't want to get you all too hungry, so let me just pause it right there. But best you eat the broccoli first, and then you can finish with the rest of the plate, right? Instead of you lambasting, you know, I don't want to eat it. So best you just eat the broccoli, then you can get on with the rest of the plate. So this is the same concept. Take your most difficult task, do it, and get on with the rest of it. And then you would repeat this every day. So this would build discipline, it will build character, and there is also studies that show it takes, I think, about 18 days to actually develop a habit. So just bear that in mind and just be gracious with yourself, because it won't come easy. But once you get it and you get into the groove of it, it will definitely help you to, get those hard things done. For me also, it's additional admin. If I see I have to do additional admin, it's better I just do that in the beginning of the day, and then I can go on with the rest of the tasks. All right, make sense? Perfect. Now I want to talk about energy. Energy management is really important, and I think the goal is really to have a good enough balance between work, rest, and leisure in order to decrease the energy demand on the body. So that is one of the definitions of energy management. But I want to bring a new concept to you if you haven't heard of it before. So normally when we talk about energy management, we talk about, I guess, bulking all the things that you want to do where you have the highest optimum level of energy, right? So it's kind of like the owl and the lark concept. So if you're better or productive more in the day, you get stuff done in the day, or if you're more productive at night, you get stuff done in the night. But how I like to do it is look at all the tasks and differentiate how much energy is taking each task. And that is how I would then say, okay, maybe this takes a bit more energy. I might want to do this more on the weekend where I have more time, instead of doing it, let's say in the evening when I don't have a lot of time or I don't have a lot of energy. So it's kind of putting that, it's like a piece of a puzzle, instead of bulking all of these into one, and then you don't really get much energy after that because you've put all your tasks together. So that is how I kind of do it. I just put it, maybe a day or a day in between and different times, if that makes sense. So I feel like you get more done because you're not doing as much. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So we can go on to the next thing. So we've talked about procrastination. We've talked about how we will structure our day. Now I want to talk about the what happens if. Now, I hope you see I didn't say what happens or what ifs, because we like to talk about the what ifs. But I think the what if is a block, because you say what if then what? So what happens if is more of a constructive way of saying, if this happens, I will do this. If this happens, I will do that. So if we go on to the other slide. So I want you to imagine your grandparents. And they talk about this long documentary of a series that, oh yes, when they went to school, they had to pass this ravine, and then they had to go through some neighbor's yard to survive 2 dog attacks, and then there was a snake, and then they had to give their brothers shoes because da-da-da. So you get what I'm saying? They came with this long story about how they went to school. And you're wondering, wow, what a journey. And then you might think, well, life is kind of like that journey. It's kind of like the 2 ravens, and then you get attacked by a dog, or you try not to get attacked by a dog. So life comes with obstacles. And what do you do when the obstacles arise is quite important. And sometimes we don't think about them. We think, okay, yes, it might come, but what if we think about they will come, and how will we manage it? So for our grandparents, the goal was to get to school. But was that the main goal? No, there was a bigger picture. It was to get an education. It was to get out of poverty. It was to provide for their family. So we need to also remember that there is a bigger goal in mind, and we also need to remember how to navigate those challenges. So if we go to the next slide. So this is called mental contrasting. And actually, Mrs. Gafford also talked about this in her presentation. So mental contrasting is a psychological goal setting and achieving technique. It asks practitioners to use a visualization to consider the outcomes and the challenges of achieving a goal. So let's say, for example, your goal is to get further education. Great. So what happens if the funding that you're applying for falls short? What happens if a grandparent passes away? What happens if your accommodation falls short? Thinking about all the obstacles that could come about and how will you navigate them? You should have at least 3 options for each, I think. So just thinking about all the alternative plans that you can potentially do if this comes around will also help you to navigate and achieve your goals. So if we go to the next slide, I would like you to come back to that goal that you wrote in the beginning. You wrote the goal, isn't it? Right. So look at the goal now and think about one obstacle, just one. What happens if? And then think about how will you navigate it. So just write it down. We'll take a minute and just write down how will you maneuver this obstacle. So I'll give you a minute and then we'll come back into the room. Okay, I'm gonna permit us to enter back into the room, if that's okay. I know I can still see some people writing, but I'm just gonna check in. So how was that experience? Was it challenging? Okay, it was challenging. And how did it make you feel? Scared? Anxious? Okay. So I just want to tell you, your feelings are validated. It is not an easy task to do because you're actually confronting what happens if. But I think it's also important that we identify and we confront these what happens if, because it's better we do it now than we do it in the midst of everything and then you don't have the headspace to think about what to do next and so on. So it is a difficult task, but it will save you in the long run. So that is just one of the approaches that you could take. Next slide, please. So my next slide is about this common saying, which is, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. So just take some time right now and just look around you. Look around you. And I want you to identify with the people around you because they are now part of your story. They are now part of your community. And use the connections that you get today because you never know how far a connection will lead you. It may lead you into a job. It may lead you into maybe finding your husband or your wife, which is also a goal, okay? Let me just say. So please do use the connections today to see how you can support your goals and how you can support the goals of others. Our next slide, please. So now I want us to do a declaration. A declaration is something that we're telling ourselves. So you're not telling Rianna Patterson, you're telling yourselves, you're speaking in your heart. So please take this activity with utmost seriousness. And I want us to declare something to ourselves. And we're going to do it week by week. Sorry, day by day. So repeat after me. Monday, I will not be the obstacle in the way of achieving my goals.
Monday, I will not be the obstacle in the way of achieving my goals.
You saying it like you mean it? Let's try it again. Monday, I, okay, would not be the obstacle in the way of achieving my goals. Tuesday, I will build discipline. Wednesday, helpers will be sent my way. Thursday, I will get closer to completing my goal. Friday, I will rest. Do you believe that? Will you rest? Please, okay. Do rest. Even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it doesn't have to be all day rest. I know Friday's a work day, so whatever rest looks like for you, please do rest. So we go on. Saturday. I will reflect and review. Sunday. I will rest again. Yes, you can rest again. Okay, so I will rest again and I will feel joy in my heart. Knowing that I have done what my capacity allows. Amen. Let this be your testimony. So, next slide, please. So yeah, this brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you for valuing the goals and declarations that we have said together. I really, truly hope that you have a prosperous new year. I believe that you have everything it takes to have a prosperous new year. And let's stay connected. I'm on LinkedIn, my email is there, and I'm also around for the rest of the day if you have any questions or comments. So thank you.